Early signs your relationship won't last. Listen up. Those are red flags. When honest talks turn into blame, and you feel lonelier with them than without them, pay attention. I'll show the quick signs to spot early, so you don't waste time on what won't grow. Stay with me. Knowing these now could save you a lot of heartache later. You don't like their friends now. Picture this. You go to a dinner party with your partner's friends. Everyone's laughing, sharing stories, but you're sitting there thinking, these are not my people. You try to brush it off, but deep down it bothers you. Here's why that matters. Social psychologists talk about something called homophily, the idea that we naturally bond with people similar to us. Friends reflect values, habits, even hidden sides of your partner. So if you find yourself actively disliking their circle, it's not just about the friends. It's a sign you may not fully connect with who your partner is at their core. In fact, many family court mediators say incompatible social values is one of the most common reasons couples split. It's not about needing to love every friend. They can have their circle. You can have yours. But if the gap feels too wide, it's like living in two different worlds. And in love, living in different worlds rarely ends well. Your relationship is solely about the romantic pull. Imagine the late-night texts, the butterflies when you see their name pop up, that rush of passion that makes you feel like nothing else matters. In the early days, it's intoxicating, like a movie where everything feels magical. But here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Passion alone doesn't build a relationship that lasts. Psychologists like Dr. Robert Sternberg call this infatuation love. It burns bright, but without intimacy and commitment, it fades. Think about it. What do you two actually talk about when the romance isn't in the room? Do you laugh over shared goals, or dream about a future together beyond just each other's arms? Without that foundation, it's like building a house out of straw. It feels exciting in the moment, but one strong wind, and it collapses. Love is more than sparks. It's also about roots. You spend too much time together? Remember that couple who canceled on their friends for yet another just us night? At first it felt sweet, like your world had its own little orbit, but slowly you start recognizing the quiet. Your hobbies, your other relationships, even parts of your identity begin to fade. Psychologists call this codependence, when two people rely on one another for identity and approval. It's romantic to be needed, but dangerous when your whole sense of self depends on one person. Healthy love gives you wings and roots. It supports your friendships, your solo hobbies, your late-night thoughts, not replaces them. If your calendar is just them, it's time to reclaim the rest of you. Your relationship feels one-sided? Picture always being the planner. You text first, you apologize first, you book the table, you make the effort. At first it's easy to play the generous partner, but generosity should be mutual, not a one-person job. In relationship research, balance in emotional labor is a huge predictor of satisfaction. When one partner shoulders most of the effort, resentment grows like mold in a closed room. Love means showing up for each other in small ways every day. If you're constantly the giver while getting little back, pause and ask, is this exhaustion love or real love? You deserve reciprocity, someone who meets your effort with their own. You feel controlled? Imagine someone rearranging your plans like they're rearranging furniture, making choices for you because it's easier. That creeping sensation of having your opinion overridden chips away at self-worth. Control often hides behind concern. I'm just helping. But it strips away agency and respect. Healthy partnerships are built on mutual decision-making. Disagreements are fine, but a partner who listens and negotiates signals respect. If you find yourself shrinking to avoid argument or swallowing choices you regret, that's not compromise, it's control. Loving someone shouldn't mean losing your voice. You're allowed to insist on being consulted, heard, and treated as an equal. You can't be yourself around them. Remember the relief of taking off a heavy coat on a hot day? That's what being with someone who knows you feels like. But if you're still polishing, quoting lines, moderating your laughter, or hiding parts of your past, the relationship is stuck at first impressions. Authenticity is the oxygen of intimacy. Research shows couples who can be vulnerable and flawed together build stronger bonds. If you worry about judgment every time you speak, you're performing, not living. Real love sees your messy, ordinary, late-night self and stays. That's the love that lasts. If you're waiting to be good enough, ask, are you with someone who lets you breathe? You don't feel accepted. Imagine someone who compliments you, but it's always followed by but, or a suggestion on how to improve, a tweak to your outfit, a comment about your job, a helpful tip about how you laugh. At first you might tell yourself they're only trying to help, but over time that pattern carves away at your confidence. Psychologists call this conditional acceptance, affection offered only if you conform, and it trains you to edit yourself into someone else's checklist. Real acceptance looks and sounds different. It notices your flaws without making them your problem to fix. It cares for your growth without demanding you become less of you. If you find yourself apologizing for who you are, minimizing parts of your history, or rehearsing a different version of yourself just to feel safe, that's a slow, steady erosion of intimacy. You deserve a partner who celebrates your edges as much as your highlights, not someone running a permanent renovation on your soul. You fight all the time? Picture a relationship where the smallest friction becomes a blaze. The dishes, a forgotten text, who left the light on. Occasional fights help couples understand different needs, but when most conversations devolve into the same set of blows, something bigger is happening. The conflict has become the relationship's default. There are healthy fight patterns, calm repair attempts, taking responsibility and coming back together. There are toxic ones, explosive shouting, bringing up old wounds, and stonewalling afterward. Over time, frequent rage or repeated, unresolved fights drain goodwill and replace tenderness with caution. Research on couple stability shows that it's not conflict itself that predicts breakups, but how couples handle it, whether they can repair and move forward. If your interactions leave you emotionally exhausted, smaller gestures start to sting, and the joyful parts get crowded out by tension, that's not growth, it's fatigue. Love should be a home, not a battlefield. If most of your time together is arguing, it's worth asking whether you're building or just burning through each other. You don't trust each other? Imagine trying to build a life on a foundation that keeps shifting under your feet. Trust is the quiet infrastructure of intimacy. It allows you to share fears, say, I messed up, and believe the other won't weaponize your truth. When trust is fractured, from lies, secrecy, or repeated betrayals, every small moment becomes a calculus. Who texted? Why were they late? What were they hiding? That constant scanning steals the present. Rebuilding trust is possible, but it requires sincere accountability, consistent transparency, and a willingness to make amends over time, not promises that evaporate after one apology. Without that labor, suspicion becomes the relationship's soundtrack and jealousy the daily weather. Ask yourself whether your partner's behavior creates safety or suspicion. Do people change when held accountable with empathy and boundaries, or does the pattern repeat? Trust is the soil where vulnerability grows. If it's poisoned, nothing deep will flourish. You deserve a relationship where honesty is the baseline, not the exception. They're regularly mean to other people? You fell in love with the person who was soft with you, but then you see them snap at a barista, belittle a driver, or turn cruel in traffic. That jolt of dissonance matters because kindness in private and cruelty in public often reveal a deeper inconsistency in character. A person's treatment of strangers, colleagues, and service workers is a very reliable mirror of how they exercise power and empathy when there's no social reward. Psychologists and long-term relationship studies consistently find that partners who are broadly compassionate, not selectively kind, are more likely to sustain healthy bonds. Someone who is only courteous in the spotlight and impatient otherwise may be practicing a charm that doesn't reflect their full moral habits. If you find yourself making excuses or feeling embarrassed by how they act when you're not the audience, that's a sharp sign to pause. You deserve a partner whose compassion is steady, not conditional, someone who treats the world with decency and brings that same decency home. They're passive-aggressive. Have you ever been told, I'm fine, while the other person clutches resentment like a secret weapon? Passive aggression is the sabotage of honest communication, indirect jabs, silent treatment, backhanded compliments, and forgetting to say what matters. It creates an emotional minefield where you're left guessing and apologizing for things you didn't do. This pattern signals fear of directness or an unwillingness to take responsibility, both of which destroy trust and make resolution almost impossible. Healthy relationships require brave, messy conversations where both people can name their needs without fear of retribution. The timing isn't right. Sometimes two people who fit in heart simply don't fit in life. One wants to settle, the other wants to hit the road. One needs time to heal after a past relationship, the other wants commitment yesterday. Timing is not romantic, but it is practical. Our careers, mental health, family obligations, and personal goals create seasons.